In this week's edition of SC Squared, we'll preview the upcoming IU Northwestern game, as well as the impending men's basketball season. Adam, let's get right into it. IU Northwestern this Saturday.
Yeah, Northwestern comes in here 5-2. They've actually won games in the Big Ten, so it's a little interesting matchup for IU, who has yet to win a Big Ten game this year, but it's a chance for them to get in the bowl. Michelle, what would be your keys to the game this weekend?
Well, first and foremost, it's definitely going to be to prevent Dan Persa's passing. Dan Persa is Northwestern's quarterback. He leads the team in passing with almost 2,000 yards on 206 attempts for 10 touchdowns, averaging about 260 yards per game. Though he has not yet thrown a touchdown in 2 games, he really is going to be a threat. Also, he's a dual threat because IU has really been struggling against dual threats this year after Denard Robinson and Terrell Pryor. He also leads the team in rushing with 341 yards on 110 carries for a total of 6 touchdowns. He rushed for 3 of those in the Michigan State game last week, and though he's not really big, he's about 6'1", 205 pounds, he's a confident, fearless player that IU really is going to have to work on stopping in order to even have a chance in winning. Also, another key would be to use a home field advantage. IU has not been successful on the road this year, but they have only lost 1 game so far at home, and that was against Michigan. Since the start of the 1995 season, IU is 6-56 in Big Ten road games. So it's really going to be important to use the energy of the crowd, use the energy of all the fans, and try to get another home game.
Yeah, hopefully they can get people out there. I mean, this is now their best opportunity to get into a bowl is this game, and probably Purdue later in the season. So it's really key for IU to use that home field, like you said.
And interestingly enough, we talked to, in a feature yesterday that we did, asking just IU students about what they think IU's chances of making a bowl, and we talked to a cheerleader, and she mentioned the fact that it's a different team when they're at home. On the road, when they're losing, they have their heads down, they come home, and they have so much more energy, they come out and they play harder, so it's going to be an important game for them. Moving into IU basketball, Tom Crean was at Big Ten Media Day in Chicago this week, and he's talking about his confidence in the new players and how he feels that there are many more quality players in the program this year. Adam, what do you think of new players Victor Oladipo, Guy-Marc Michel, and Will Sheehy will bring to the team this year?
I really like what Oladipo brings from an athletic standpoint. He's a guy that can get the crowd on their feet with a thunderous dunk, or even, just give them a slasher who will get to the basket. IU really struggles sometimes getting their offense initiated, but if they have a guy who can cut to the basket like Oladipo, that'll give them another opportunity on offense. You also get, like you said, Guy-Marc Michel is in there now. They really need a banger. They don't have any guy who possesses his size, so I like that. I don't know quite yet what Sheehy will bring to the table, but I'd imagine, he was obviously recruited by the school, so he has to have something there that they are interested in, and I think his shooting will actually help them a little bit this season.
Adam, also, 5 of the 11 teams in the Big Ten are ranked in the top 25 of the coaches poll, with Michigan State, Ohio State, and Purdue all in the top 10, and then Illinois and Wisconsin somewhere in there as well. Where do you expect the Hoosiers to finish in the Big Ten with such a competitive conference this year?
7th is a good mark I think that they should shoot for this year. With all that competition, like you said, Michigan State and Ohio State are going to be powers in the conference again, as well as you add in the other teams that are there year in and year out, like Illinois and Wisconsin. Really, the Hoosiers need to just strive for probably the 7th seed in the Big Ten. That might be enough to get them into the tournament. I don't think so. I think they're going to finish probably 17 wins, probably an NIT bid, but that's a lot better than in years prior. So I think that if they take that confidence into next season, they'll still probably keep everybody around. That'll be their best move as far as this year goes.
Well, in other IU sports, the men's and women's soccer team both had losses this week. Men's soccer lost to Butler 4-1, and IU was ranked 25th going into the game. Now they really set the tone by making a mistake in the early minutes, and again, they were not able to pull themselves out of that hole to win the game, losing 4-1. Next game is Northwestern, and this Sunday at 5, and the Hoosiers have a chance to clinch the Big Ten title if they can win this game. Women's soccer lost 6-1 at Purdue this week, and with senior forward Darby Hannon, with the only goal of the game, her second of the season. Their next game is Ohio State on Sunday as well, so we'll see what they can do.
Yeah, IU really had a chance in that game to make a statement. It was against a top 10 team, and they were finally ranked this season again since starting the season there. But, you know, they kind of dropped the ball. They got to get back on their feet. They'll probably get a tournament bid, so let's see what they can do here on the rest of the season. When we come back, guys, we're going to talk about some local sports, Colts, Pacers, and we're even going to throw some Bears stuff in there for all you Chicago fans. So we'll see you guys in a minute. Are we good?
Welcome back to SC Squared. Adam, the Colts host the Texans Monday night. It's a big game for the Colts, their second meeting of the season, and they were not so successful the first meeting. How do you think this game's going to play out?
You know, if they don't let Arian Foster make their defense look like a pinball machine, because he was just bouncing off guys last game, getting easy touchdowns, I think they'll fare a lot better. The problem that the Colts are going to have now is last game they had pretty much a healthy roster. Now, not so much. You lose Dallas Clark for the season. Austin Colley's gone for a lot of the time. You know, Bob Sanders and Melvin Bullitt are both pretty much season-ending injuries there. So they're not as healthy. This is a huge division game. It is at home. That's a huge advantage for the Colts. They play much better at home than on the road. So I think they will win this, but it's all going to start with how they do against Arian Foster, because their run defense just has not looked up to par this year compared to a couple years prior to this. So
right.
That's a big deal.
The Colts defense is ranked 26th against the run, allowing over 130 yards per game. So the defense is definitely going to be an important factor in this game if they want to win the second time around.
Yeah, no, I mean, and like I said, this is a division game. It's going to give a team the division lead at this part of the season, which I know it's early and it might not matter so much later in the year, but I actually think that because these teams are both playing so well right now, this game could be the difference in one of the teams being either a wild card or just not even making the playoffs. So the Colts need to win this game if they want to stay in the playoff hunt. As far as, you know, the Bears have a bye week this week after Cutler threw 4 picks last week. What do you think the Bears need to do in their bye week?
Well, it's definitely a much-needed bye week for the Bears after that embarrassing circus of a Redskins game. You know, but you can only blame so much on Jay Cutler. It really starts a lot higher up with Mike Martz. He's praising Jay Cutler, but then saying they have a little bit of work to do. Yet Cutler, finished the game 1 touchdown pass, 4 interceptions. It looked like he was throwing to D'Angelo Hall, who broke tied an NFL record. With 4 interceptions, one of which he ran back for 92 yards and a touchdown. So I mean, there's a lot more to it. The O-line has allowed 4 sacks. It's the 3rd game in a row that Cutler has been sacked. So I think you can only really blame so much on Jay Cutler. There are a lot of other factors.
A good bye week move might be for them to trade for D'Angelo Hall. The Bears are struggling with their wide receiving core this year, so maybe Hall would add them an extra receiver. He could also play on the other side of the ball where they're struggling a little bit on defense as well. So
maybe that's a good idea, Adam. Moving on to the Pacers, they lost their opening game of the regular season to the Spurs, 122-109. What went wrong?
Turnovers and fouling, and that's been their issue for about the past couple seasons. And you can say that about any team that's been struggling, but honestly, the Pacers crumbled away. They gave away the ball 6 times in the final 4 minutes of the game, and that's really what gave the Spurs the win. The Pacers were hanging with them throughout. Roy Hibbert put in 26 points, a double-double performance. Darren Collison came in, performed very well in his first game, and Granger looked just about as good as I've seen him play in 2 seasons since he was an All-Star. So they have a good core there. I think it's just all about playing together more, knowing where the other players are going to be so you don't turn the ball over as much. And they just have to cut down on the fouling, because when they let the other teams get to the line as much as they do, that's giving them points that they could not, that their defense is playing actually well enough. Their field goal percentage defense is one of the better ones in the NBA. So if they can keep the teams from getting to the line and converting there, I think they'll fare a lot better throughout the season. I think they're going to win against Charlotte tonight, and I also think the Sixers is a good game for them to have on a back-to-back at home as well. So we'll see how they do the rest of the year, but I think this team is showing a lot more promise early on than the teams in years prior.
Welcome back to SC Squared alongside Josh Sherman. I'm Hank Glassner. Right now we are going to talk a little NBA since the season has finally begun, and we're way too excited for the beginning of an NBA season because there have been way too many storylines this year compared to years of the past. You have LeBron James and the Heat, the Lakers trying to three-peat, and you have the Celtics, and you have a lot of contenders this year. Give me some of your top storylines heading into this season.
Well, obviously the Miami Heat. Everyone's talking about them. What are they going to do? How are they going to play together? To me, they haven't looked that great on the court so far. 2 games, they obviously got beat by the Celtics, and they just looked confused when all three of them were on the court. It was like Chris Bosh wasn't even playing. I think he had 11 points in that game. And yes, it's early. They're going to grow as a team as the season goes on. But they just don't seem, it seems too much to be about the big three and not about the whole Miami Heat team.
And how about the Boston Celtics? Could they go out and beat Miami, but then the next game right after that, they lose to Cleveland. So that's a huge, I'm speechless when I